Hello everyone, this is Ankur Buddhiraja, Assistant Professor at the BBA Department of GIMS Greater Noida. In this session of Production and Operations Management, BBA 303 paper, I shall be taking up the topic quality management. It's a very important topic as far as the question papers of the end term examinations are concerned, and many a times a lot of short notes come from this particular topic. So before we talk about quality management, let us first understand what quality is all about. So when we talk about quality, we have to understand that there is no universal understanding or definition of quality. It is a relative term and usually expressed on the basis of certain parameters which cannot be exhaustive in themselves. Usually, quality is understood as presence of some desirable characteristics in a product or a service, and is expressed in terms of the degree to which anything meets the expectations of a user and satisfies his needs. In other words, quality can be understood as presence of those elements in a product or a service that meet the expectations of a user better than others. Quantitatively, quality can be understood as performance ratio of a particular unit of product and the expectation that the user has from that product. Therefore, Q stands for quality, which can be is equal to or which is equal to the performance of a product over the expectation of the user from that unit of product. And in that case, if the resulting satisfaction S is equal to the expectations, it will lead to customer satisfaction. If the satisfaction level is less than expectation, it leads to dissatisfaction. And finally, if the satisfaction level is more than expectations, it leads to customer delight. So this was quite a relationship with how satisfaction and how quality is defined in marketing management also. Moving on, we shall now understand the specification and dimensions that are used to define quality. When I talk about quality specifications, these are those standards because of which a particular product or service is understood to be of high quality, and the absence of such elements deteriorates the quality of a product or service. David Garvin from Harvard Business School gave the following parameters or dimensions to define quality of anything. And he said, if something has good performance or something shows good performance, is said to be of good quality. If anything has good features, attractive features, that is also is said to be having good quality. If something is reliable in terms of its performance and quality, then it is also said to be having good quality. Then if a product or a service conforms to some specified standards given by some agencies, then that is also understood as something of good quality. In terms of assets like refrigerator, air conditioner, even furniture, if it ends up having a good age and is durable, it is also understood as good quality. Then if something has beautiful appearance in terms of aesthetics, then that is also understood as good quality. And last but not the least, in case of technical and machinery based products, if it is easily serviceable and it does not have too much expenses in servicing, then that is also understood as something of good quality. So Garvin's 7 parameters or dimensions of quality are quite exhaustive, and he has tried to cover everything. Moving on, we will now cover up the topic cost of quality. So the concept of cost of quality emerged in 1950s and is defined as that extra element of cost which is incurred due to poor or bad quality of a product or service. This was defined by Juran, And in simple terms, it can be easily understood as an additional expenditure that an individual or a company incurs as a penalty and wastage because of poor product quality or poor quality of services. That is, like, if I want to express this in simple terms, so it is that extra expenditure, which is unnecessary expenditure, that is to be incurred because of poor quality products manufactured. When I talk about cost of quality, we have to understand that there are four types of cost of quality. The first one is internal failure cost, that can occur when there is a frequent malfunctioning of a machine, or there are workers sitting idle, or the internal environment of an organization is quite unhygienic, leading to wastages and accidents. So this leads to a lot of cost in repair. Then is external failure cost, which is usually coming from the customer's feedback, when a product fails to actually bring in the desired results. And the third one is appraisal cost, which is evaluation cost, and which is comparison of a particular product and its quality with the desired standards. So in case the desired standards are higher and the product standards are low, then we have to upgrade the product, and the extra expenditure incurred in upgrading is also understood as a type of cost of quality. And last but not the least is prevention cost, where a lot of prevention measures or preventive measures are to be taken and devised and to be implemented to prevent big damages of future. Now we will come to certain independent concepts given in the syllabus, which are probably not very much related to each other, and we will take up each and every concept as an independent short note kind of concept, because these are usually asked as short note in the final exams. And you will see that each and every concept will have no bearing or relationship with the others. So the first concept related to quality is quality at source, also popularly known as QATS. So when I talk about quality at source, it is actually a philosophy or a concept that involves locating errors at the beginning of the production process only, and making sure that the errors are caught and fixed at the source only, so that they don't become big mistakes later. In other words, rather than waiting for some big damage to happen, it is always advisable, according to the quality at source philosophy, to catch, identify and correct the mistakes at the source only. Moreover, this approach involves a total shift in the attitude of the concerned employees towards the concept of quality. Usually, because of lethargic attitude of employees, they may consider, or they may wait for some damage to happen, and then correcting that damage is a general or universal attitude. But quality at source actually aims to bring a complete shift in this kind of attitude, where it is always recommended that every employee related to production or is implementing quality at source should have an inclination towards maintaining quality from the beginning itself, from the source itself. Moving on, it also requires a proactive mindset rather than reactive mindset of error prevention, rather than waiting for a big damage to happen, as I already explained. And QATS, that is quality at source, is composed of 5 major elements. First is continuous improvement. There should be an element of, or rather an urge to keep on improving constantly and continuously. Then second is standardized work, which is common for all. The rules, regulations, policies related to work and production should be common. Then self-checks. The people should be self-motivated to keep on checking their own performance simultaneously, rather than waiting for big mistakes to happen. Then successive checks. The element of successive checks actually aim to keep an eye on the quality standards of the product on a continuous and successive basis. That means after conducting one series of tests, we should not stop. There may be a chance that the error may occur later on. So it is always advisable, according to QATS, that these checks should be constant and successive. And last but not the least is mistake proofing, which is nothing but keeping on checking the mistakes, identifying the mistakes, and correcting them so that the whole process or the output becomes completely full of quality and is mistake proof. The next concept related to quality is zero defects. Before I talk about zero defects, we have to understand that in real sense, in practical sense, attaining zero defects or complete defect-free system is not possible. But still, zero defect tries to reach near the perfection level as much as possible. Moreover, this phrase zero defects was given by Philip Crosby in his book Absolutes of Quality Management, which emerged as a popular concept in the field of quality management later on. In literal sense, zero defects is a state where all types of wastes and defects are eliminated and treated to attain the highest quality level in the production system. As I said, it literally means perfection, but in reality, attaining zero defects is difficult. So through zero defects, the company tries to reach to the perfection level as close as possible. And also, zero defects is a quest to improve quality to a point that is acceptable under most stringent quality standards. That means everything that is produced under the system of zero defects should meet the toughest quality standards. And if it is so, then we can say the system is full of zero defects. And the last understanding about zero defects is that there are 4 elements of zero defects philosophy. First is fulfilling all quality requirements, doing the right things the first time only. That means you have to choose the things which are right in nature already. The wrong things also should be started with some righteousness in mind. Then quality is measured in quantitative terms and understood to be having an impact on revenue. And the last is performance should be judged on the basis of accepted standards as close to perfection as possible. Moving on, now we have another very important aspect related to quality, and that's called POCA yokes. POCA yokes is a Japanese ideograph which means mistake proofing or error prevention. It is concerned with reducing human errors at different stages of production process, and any POCA yoke mechanism in the process is the one that helps the operator avoiding mistakes. So here avoid means yokes, mistakes means POCA. That's how POCA yokes is generated and originated. The main purpose of POCA yokes is to eliminate defects by preventing or correcting or bringing continuous attention to human errors as they occur. This concept was formally adopted by Shigeo Shingo of Toyota, where POCA yokes also keeps the process free from producing errors so as to improve the quality and productivity with no delays, no rework, or no complications, thereby increasing and improving the overall productivity of the system. Moving on, we have the next concept called benchmarking, which is actually a tool of strategic management that allows the organization to set the goals and measures of productivity on the basis of the best industry standards and practices. Usually a benchmark is something that has never been done before. So a benchmarked quality will be the one which has not been probably adopted or attained previously by the firm or the organization, and therefore the firm has to attain the best industry standard or practice to create a new kind of benchmark in its own practices. Benchmarking is a practice in which quality standards are used as points of reference to evaluate the actual performance and then comparing it with the quality standards laid down already by the industry. And if there are some loopholes, then corrective actions are taken so that the benchmark is attained. Benchmarking is also concerned with analysis of 3 major dimensions, that is cost, quality, and time, and tries to minimize cost, improves quality, and minimize time, therefore, to implement the finest processes to excel in the business and market. Benchmarking can take shape of SWOT analysis, which is analysis of the strengths and weaknesses, and then opportunities and threats, so as to take strategic decisions. And then peer benchmarking, which is nothing but imitating or understanding what the competitor or the peer group is doing, and therefore trying to attain those benchmarks. And then last is collaborative benchmarking, where many a times an organization can collaborate with agencies to create new innovations, inventions, and benchmarks. Moving on, we have a very important quality-oriented concept called Six Sigma, which is a set of techniques, statistical techniques and tools for process improvement. It was introduced by American engineer Bill Smith while working at Motorola in 1986. Later on, it became the central core of the business strategy adopted by Jack Welch at General Electric Company in 1995. A Six Sigma process is the one where continuous attempts are made to attain 99.99% of all the opportunities to produce some feature of a part which are statistically expected to be free of defects. Six Sigma strategies aim to improve the quality of the output of a process by locating and removing the causes of defects and minimizing the impact variability in manufacturing and business processes. That means rather than waiting for any defect to occur and then correcting it, it not only corrects the defect, rather it addresses the root cause of the defect. Six Sigma usually uses a set of quality management methods which are mainly empirical and statistical in nature, and tries to create a special infrastructure or pool of people within the organization who continuously aim and work in the direction of removing defects to the maximum possible extent. The Six Sigma doctrine or philosophy focuses on 1. Continuous efforts to achieve stable and predictable process results, which are of vital importance for the overall business success. 2. Manufacturing and business processes have characteristics that can be defined, measured, analyzed, improved, and controlled. And 3. Achieving sustained quality improvements that require commitment from the entire organization, particularly from the top management for their support. Usually, a Six Sigma stands out because of its unique features, which are as follows. The first one is a clear focus on achieving measurable and quantifiable financial returns from any Six Sigma project. We have to understand here that all other quality-oriented philosophies and concepts are usually qualitative in nature, while Six Sigma is a benchmark in that direction and quantifies and measures the quality in financial terms. Second feature is an increased emphasis on strong and passionate management, leadership support. And last but not the least, a clear commitment to making decisions on the basis of verifiable data and statistical methods rather than working on assumptions and guesswork. So all these features make Six Sigma quite different from other quality concepts. The next concept is Kaizen, which is a Japanese ideograph on meaning change for the better or continuous improvement. It is a Japanese business philosophy regarding the processes that continuously improve operations and involve all the employees at all the levels. Kaizen sees an improvement in productivity as a gradual and methodological process, a slow process where The main founding elements which work together are teamwork, personal discipline, improved morale, quality circles, and suggestions for improvement. In quality circle, a participative kind of environment is in Kaizen, a participative kind of environment is created, and everybody involved is free to give quality improvement suggestions. There are 4 types of Kaizen. Kaizen Tian, that is nothing but bottom of improvement, which is a form of improvement where people participate to improve their own processes from the bottom to the top in the hierarchy of the business. Then is Kaizen events, which which aim at defined improvements, which are of course slow and gradual but well defined. Then is Kaikaku, which is nothing but bringing radical drastic changes. And then last is Kakushin, which leads to or aims at bringing breakthrough innovations, benchmarked innovations which are not attained so far in the business. Then we talk about the Kaizen process or Kaizen cycle, which is nothing but a PDCA cycle where we have to plan first, then we have to do, and then we have to check, and then we have to act. That means plan the quality standards, then we have to work upon the quality standards, then we have to check whether the quality standards are in tune with the business running, and then we have to take the final actions. With this, I complete part 1 of quality management, and I will take up the last 3 concepts of quality management in the next lecture. Thank you so much.